Stephen left me a note on the kitchen counter at 7 a.m. I'm done pretending, Gloria. Don't look for me. My hands shook as I read those words, coffee mug slipping from my fingers and shattering on the tile floor. 28 years of marriage, and he leaves me a note like I'm some stranger he's breaking up with. I stood there in my bathrobe, staring at the mess of ceramic and coffee spreading across the floor, wondering if this was some sick joke. But his closet was empty. His toothbrush was gone. Even his lucky fishing hat that he'd worn for 15 years had vanished from the hook by the door. My phone buzzed. Victoria. Hey honey, can you swing by the office today? We need to finalize those investment papers. Victoria Chun had been my best friend for 12 years. We met at a real estate conference in Orlando, bonded over terrible hotel coffee and worse motivational speakers. She was starting her own property development company, and last month, she presented me with the opportunity of a lifetime. A luxury condo complex in downtown Tampa, projected returns of 30% annually. I'd given her my entire retirement savings, $247,000. Victoria, Stephen's gone, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. What do you mean gone? He left. Just left. There's a note. Silence on the other end. Then, oh honey, I'm so sorry. Come over right now. We'll figure this out together. I threw on yesterday's clothes and drove to Victoria's office in a daze. The morning traffic seemed surreal, like I was watching someone else's life through a windshield. How do you process 28 years ending with a post-it note? Stephen and I had our problems, what couple doesn't? But we were supposed to grow old together. We had plans. The cruise to Alaska next spring. Visiting our daughter Emma in Seattle for Christmas. Victoria's office was in a sleek building downtown, all glass and steel reaching toward the Florida sky. She met me in the lobby, looking perfectly put together in her navy suit and pearls. Even at 53, she could pass for 40. I'd always envied that about her. You look terrible, she said, wrapping me in a hug that smelled like expensive perfume. Thanks for the pep talk. Come on, let's get some coffee in you. Her office was immaculate as always. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Tampa Bay, and her desk was organized with military precision. She poured coffee from an expensive machine and handed me a mug that probably cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. Tell me exactly what happened, she said. I showed her the note. She read it twice, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her coffee cup. Men, she said finally. They're all children, Gloria. Selfish children who run away when things get difficult. Difficult? What's difficult about our life? We both have good jobs, the house is paid off, Emma's doing well in Seattle. What could be so difficult that he just leaves? Victoria set down her cup and moved to the window. Maybe he's having a midlife crisis. You know how men get at his age. They start thinking about all the things they haven't done. All the adventures they've missed. Adventures. I laughed bitterly. Stephen's idea of adventure is trying a new fishing spot. People change, honey. Sometimes they hide who they really are for years, decades even. And then one day, they can't pretend anymore. Something in her tone made me look at her more carefully. She was still facing the window, her reflection ghost-like in the glass. Victoria, is there something you're not telling me? She turned back to me, her smile bright and practiced. Of course not. I'm just trying to help you understand what might be going through his head. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Check your bank account. A friend. My blood went cold. I need to check something, I said, pulling up my banking app with trembling fingers. The retirement account I'd set up specifically for Victoria's investment showed a balance of $0.00. Not just the investment money, everything. The account had been completely drained 3 days ago. Victoria, I said, my voice deadly quiet. Where's my money? She was back at her desk, shuffling papers with the same casual efficiency she always had. What money? Don't you dare play dumb with me. My retirement account is empty. $247,000 gone. That's terrible, Gloria. Identity theft is so common these days. You should call the bank immediately.
I stared her.
Really stared. The way she wasn't quite meeting my eyes. The way her hands were perfectly steady when mine were shaking. The way she'd been ready with explanations for Stephen's behavior, like she'd rehearsed them. You know something, I said. I know that you're upset and looking for someone to blame. That's natural after a trauma like this. Show me the investment documents. Gloria, show me the goddamn documents, Victoria. She pulled out a manila folder from her desk drawer and slid it across to me. I opened it and found nothing. No contracts, no business plans, no incorporation papers. Just blank letterhead and a few printed emails that could have been created in 5 minutes. This is fake, I said. You're not thinking clearly. This is all fake. I stood up so fast my chair rolled backward and hit the wall. There is no investment, is there? There never was. Victoria's mask finally slipped. Just for a second, but I saw it. The flash of guilt or maybe annoyance at being caught. Gloria, sit down. Let me explain. Explain what? How you stole my life savings. How you? I stopped. The pieces were clicking together in my mind like a horrible jigsaw puzzle. Stephen knew, didn't he? She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. It was written all over her face. He knew about the fake investment. He knew you were robbing me blind. My voice was getting louder. How long, Victoria? How long have you two been planning this? It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. Tell me what happened to my money. Stephen needed a fresh start, she said quietly. We both did. The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually stumbled backward. We both did. I repeated. We. Victoria's composure cracked completely. She looked older, suddenly tired. It wasn't supposed to happen this way, Gloria. We tried to fight it. Fight what? The way we felt about each other. I thought I might throw up. Or pass out. Or both. How long? Does it matter? How long? 6 months, she whispered. 6 months. While I was bragging to Emma about my brilliant investment opportunity. While I was planning our future retirement. While I was trusting my best friend with my life savings. She was sleeping with my husband. Where are they? I asked. I don't know what you mean. My money, Victoria. Where's my money? She gestured helplessly at the fake documents. The investment. Stop lying to me. I slammed my hand on her desk. There is no investment. You took my money and gave it to Stephen so you two could run away together. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling the police. Gloria, wait. Her voice was sharp now, commanding. Think about what you're doing. Do you really want Emma to find out her father abandoned you for your best friend? Do you want your colleagues to know you were stupid enough to hand over your life savings without doing any due diligence? I paused, my finger hovering over the call button. This doesn't have to get messy, Victoria continued. Stephen left you the house. It's worth what, 300,000? You can sell it. Start over. You're only 55, Gloria. You have time to rebuild. Start over? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. With what? You took everything. I took an investment that went bad. These things happen in business. You knew there were risks. There were no risks because there was no business. Victoria stood up and smoothed her skirt. I think you should go home, Gloria. Process this. When you're thinking more clearly. I am thinking clearly. Probably for the first time in months. Pocketed my phone. You're right about one thing, though. I don't want Emma to know the truth. Not yet. But I'm going to find Stephen, and I'm going to get my money back. He's gone, Gloria. They're both gone. They? Victoria's face went white. She'd said too much. Who else, Victoria? Who else is in on this? She sat back down heavily. Nobody. I meant me. We're both gone from your life. But I'd heard what I'd heard. They're both gone. Not we're both gone. They. I left Victoria's office with my mind racing. Stephen hadn't just run off with my best friend. Someone else was involved. But who? I drove home in a fog, trying to process everything. 28 years of marriage, 12 years of friendship, and my entire retirement savings. All gone in one morning. I felt hollowed out like someone had scooped out my insides and left just the shell. The house felt enormous and empty. Every room had memories of Stephen, his reading chair by the window, his coffee mug in the sink, the dent in the couch where he'd sat every night watching the news. How had I not seen this coming? Were there signs I'd missed? I made myself a sandwich I didn't want and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the spot where he'd left his note. Then I remembered something Victoria had said. They start thinking about all the things they haven't done, all the adventures they've missed. Stephen had never talked about missed adventures. He was content with his routine work, fishing, home. The most adventurous thing he'd done in years was try sushi. But Victoria was always talking about traveling, about seeing the world, about experiences she wanted to have. What if she'd been the one with the midlife crisis? What if she'd convinced Stephen to run away with her? My phone rang. Emma. Mom, I just tried calling Dad and his phone went straight to voicemail. Is everything okay? I almost told her everything right then. The words were right there, ready to spill out. But Victoria had been right about one thing. Did I really want Emma to know her father had abandoned us for my best friend? He had to go out of town for work, I said. His phone might be dead. Okay. How are you doing? You sound weird.
I'm fine. Oni.
Just tired. Are you sure? You can talk to me, about anything. Emma had always been perceptive. Even as a child, she could sense when something was wrong. I wanted to tell her everything to have someone on my side, but she was 3,000 miles away and had her own life to worry about. I'm sure. How's work going? We talked for another few minutes about her job at the tech company, her boyfriend Marcus, her plans for the weekend. Normal things. Things from the life I'd had yesterday, before everything changed. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my empty house and tried to figure out what to do next. I could call the police, but Victoria was right. I'd willingly given her the money. I'd signed papers even if they were fake. Proving fraud would be difficult, especially if Stephen backed up her story about the investment. I could hire a private investigator, but that would cost money I didn't have. I could sell the house, but that would take months. Or I could find them myself. I went to Stephen's home office and started going through his papers. Bank statements, tax returns, insurance policies. All the boring documents of a life we'd built together. Nothing seemed unusual until I found his credit card statements from the last 6 months. Restaurant charges I didn't recognize. Hotel stays when he told me he was visiting his brother in Jacksonville. Gas purchases in towns I'd never heard of. And then, buried in the March statement, a charge that made my blood freeze. Victoria's Properties of $5,000. Victoria's Properties. The same fake company she'd used for my investment. Stephen had been paying her for months. But for what? I kept digging through his papers, and that's when I found the folder hidden behind his filing cabinet. Insurance policies, but not the ones I knew about. These were new, with beneficiaries I'd never seen before. And applications for new credit cards, bank accounts, even a passport. Stephen had been planning to disappear for months. Maybe longer. The passport application was dated 8 months ago. The beneficiary on the insurance policies was listed as V. Chun, Victoria. They'd been planning this since last year. My phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. Ocean View Motel, room 247. Tonight at 9 p.m. Come alone. My hands were shaking as I typed back. Who is this? Someone who wants justice too. I stared at the phone. Justice for what? Had Stephen and Victoria done this to someone else? The Ocean View Motel was a rundown place near the airport, the kind of place where people paid by the hour and didn't ask questions. I almost didn't go. Almost called the police instead, or Emma, or someone who could talk sense into me. But I needed answers. I arrived at 8:45 and sat in my car in the parking lot, watching room 247. The neon sign flickered, no vacancy, in pink letters, and half the light bulbs in the Ocean View sign were burned out. This wasn't the kind of place Victoria would normally be caught dead in. At exactly 9 p.m., I knocked on the door. It opened to reveal a woman about my age, Hispanic, with tired eyes and work-worn hands. She looked me up and down like she was appraising me. "You're Gloria," she said. It wasn't a question. "Who are you?" "Maria Santos. Comein." The room was cleaner than I'd expected, but still depressing. 2 double beds with worn floral bedspreads, a table with mismatched chairs, and the lingering smell of cigarettes and disinfectant. "How do you know who I am?" I asked. Maria poured coffee from a thermos and handed me a cup. "Because Victoria Chun destroyed my life too." "What do you mean?" 2 years ago, she convinced me to invest my life savings in a restaurant development project. Told me I'd double my money in 6 months. Maria's voice was bitter. Sound familiar? My stomach dropped. How much? $130,000. Everything I'd saved working double shifts at the hospital for 20 years. "Did you go to the police?" I tried, but I'd signed papers, transferred the money willingly. She had fake documents, fake references, fake everything. The police said it was a civil matter. So she's done this before. She's done it 3 times that I know of. Maybe more. Maria pulled a manila folder from her purse. I've been tracking her for 2 years, waiting for the right moment. She opened the folder and spread out photographs, documents, and printouts. Pictures of Victoria with different men at restaurants and hotels. Bank records showing large transfers. And at the bottom of the pile, photographs that made my heart stop. Stephen and Victoria. kissing outside a beachfront hotel. Stephen and Victoria, holding hands as they walked into a real estate office. Stephen and Victoria, looking at what appeared to be boat brochures. When were these taken? I asked. Last week. In Key West. Key West. Stephen had told me he was going fishing with his brother in Jacksonville last week. They're still there? I asked. As of yesterday. Staying at the Casa Marina Resort under the name Mr. and Mrs. Stephen Chun. Chun. Victoria's last name. They got married. Maria nodded grimly. 3 days ago. Had a little ceremony on the beach. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Stephen had married Victoria while he was still married to me. While I was still planning our anniversary dinner for next month. There's more, Maria said. She pulled out another photograph. This one showed Stephen and Victoria with a third person, a man in an expensive suit I didn't recognize. Who's that? Daniel Morrison. He's a banker in the Cayman Islands. Specializes in discreet financial services. Offshore banking. They weren't just running away. They were hiding the money where no one could touch it. How do you know all this? Maria smiled grimly. I hired a private investigator with the last of my savings. Cost me $8,000, but it was worth it to know the truth. What do you plan to do with this information? That depends. Are you ready to get your money back? I looked at the photographs again. Stephen looked happy in them. Happier than I'd seen him in years. Victoria was radiant, laughing at something he'd said. Her hand on his arm like they were teenagers in love. They'd stolen from me. Lied to me. Betrayed me in the worst possible way. What did you have in mind? I asked. Maria leaned forward. Victoria's not as smart as she thinks she is. She made mistakes. Left a trail. And more importantly, she's gotten greedy. What do you mean? She's planning one more score before they disappear for good. A big one. $5 million from a retired oil executive in Houston. How do you know this? Because Daniel Morrison isn't as discreet as he thinks he is. My PI got into his email. Maria showed me printouts of email exchanges between Victoria and the banker. Plans for a fake oil rig investment, forged documents, and a timeline that put the theft 3 days from now. If we can catch her in the act, Maria said, we'll have enough evidence to put her away for years. And more importantly, we'll know exactly where she's hidden the money. Gloria, I've been waiting 2 years for a chance like this. I can't do it alone. I need someone on the inside, someone she trusts. She doesn't trust me anymore. Not after this morning. But she thinks you're beaten. Thinks you'll just accept what happened and move on. Maria tapped the photos. That's her weakness, she underestimates people. I thought about Victoria's parting words. You can sell the house, start over. Like I was some pathetic victim who just accept being robbed. What's your plan? Maria spread out a map of Houston. The mark's name is Robert Hughes. 72 years old, widowed, lives alone in River Oaks. Victoria's supposed to meet him tomorrow to finalize the investment. And you're going to be there. How? You're going to call Victoria tonight. Tell her you've been thinking about what she said, that you want to apologize for losing your temper. Tell her you've decided to accept what happened and move on. She'll never believe that. She'll believe it because she wants to believe it. Because it means she got away with it clean. Maria leaned back in her chair. Then you're going to ask her for a small favor. Tell her you heard about an investment opportunity in Houston, something that could help you rebuild your retirement savings. Ask if she'd be willing to check it out for you while she's in town on business. What makes you think she'll be in Houston? Maria smiled. Because I'm going to make sure she gets a call from Robert Hughes tonight, moving their meeting up by a day due to a family emergency. This is insane. This is justice. I looked at the photographs again. Stephen kissing another woman. Victoria laughing while she planned to steal from another victim. The two people I trusted most in the world, conspiring to destroy innocent people's lives. What happens after we catch her? We record everything. Get her confession on tape. Then we call the FBI. And the money? We make her transfer it back. All of it. Yours, mine, and whatever she's stolen from other people. It was risky. Probably illegal. Definitely dangerous. But sitting in that motel room, looking at evidence of just how thoroughly I'd been betrayed, I realized I didn't care about the risks anymore. I'm in, I said. The next 18 hours were the longest of my life. I called Victoria that night, swallowing my pride and following Maria's script exactly. Victoria, it's me. I'm sorry about earlier. I was upset and said things I didn't mean. Oh honey, I'm so glad you called. I was worried about you. I've been thinking about what you said. About starting over. You're right. I do have time to rebuild. Of course you do. And I'll help however I can. The lie came so easily to her. Like she hadn't stolen my life savings less than 24 hours earlier. Actually, there is something you could help me with. I heard about an investment opportunity in Houston. Oil and gas. The returns sound too good to be true, but if it's legitimate. What kind of returns? 25% annually. The company is called Hughes Petroleum Holdings. There was a long pause. Then, I might know someone who could check that out for you. Let me make some calls. Thank you, Victoria. I really appreciate it. That's what friends are for. Friends. The word tasted like poison in my mouth. 2 hours later, I got a text. Meeting confirmed for tomorrow, 2 p.m., River Oaks Country Club. V is taking the bait. Maria's plan was working. The next day, I flew to Houston on a ticket that cost money I didn't have, charged to a credit card that was already maxed out. Maria met me at the airport, looking nervous but determined. Are you ready for this? She asked. No. But let's do it anyway. We drove to River Oaks in Maria's rental car, a nondescript sedan with tinted windows. The neighborhood was exactly what I'd expected. Massive houses hidden behind gates and perfectly manicured lawns. Old money and new money living side by side in air-conditioned splendor. The River Oaks Country Club was understated elegance, all polished wood and leather furniture. We parked across the street and waited. At exactly 2 p.m., Victoria's silver BMW pulled into the circular drive. She stepped out looking immaculate in a cream-colored suit, carrying a leather briefcase that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. There she is, Maria said, adjusting the small camera hidden in her purse. You remember what to do. I nodded. The plan was simple. I'd confront Victoria inside the club, force her to admit what she'd done while Maria recorded everything from a nearby table. But when I saw Victoria walk through those club doors, looking confident and beautiful and completely unrepentant, something inside me snapped. I got out of the car. Gloria, wait. Maria called. Stick to the plan. But I was already walking toward the club entrance, my hands clenched into fists. The maitre d' tried to stop me at the door. I wasn't exactly dressed for the River Oaks Country Club in my jeans and Target blouse, but I pushed past him and into the dining room. Victoria was already seated at a corner table with an elderly man in a seersucker suit. Robert Hughes, presumably. They were looking at documents spread across the white tablecloth, and Victoria was pointing to charts and graphs with the same confident smile she'd used on me. I walked straight to their table.
Hello, Victoria.
She looked up, and I watched the color drain from her face. Gloria? What are you doing here? Stopping you from robbing another innocent person. Robert Hughes looked confused. I'm sorry, is there some problem? Mr. Hughes, my name is Gloria Wilson. This woman stole my life savings 6 months ago with a fake investment scheme. She's about to do the same thing to you. Victoria stood up, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Gloria, you're making a scene. And you're wrong about what happened between us. Am I? Then where's my money, Victoria? Where's the condo development you told me about? There were complications with the project. Market conditions. There was no project. I turned to Robert Hughes, who was looking back and forth between us like he was watching a tennis match. Sir, have you verified this investment? Have you seen the actual properties? Talked to other investors? Well, Victoria came highly recommended. By who? Let me guess, references she provided herself. Victoria grabbed my arm. You need to leave. Now. I shook her off. I'm not going anywhere until you tell Mr. Hughes the truth. Tell him there is no Hughes Petroleum Holdings. Tell him there are no oil rigs. Tell him you're planning to take his money and disappear, just like you did with mine. The dining room had gone quiet. Other patrons were staring, and I could see a manager approaching our table. Is there a problem here? The manager asked. Yes, I said before Victoria could answer. This woman is a con artist and I can prove it. I pulled out the folder Maria had given me. Photographs, bank records, everything. I spread them across the table, knocking over Victoria's water glass in the process. These are pictures of her with my husband in Key West last week. They got married while he was still married to me. And this, I held up a bank statement, shows the transfer of my retirement savings to an account in her name. Robert Hughes picked up one of the photographs. Victoria, is this true? Victoria's composure finally cracked completely. It's complicated. It's fraud, I said. And if you give her your money, you'll never see it again. Ladies, I'm going to have to ask you to take this discussion outside, the manager said. Gladly. I scooped up the documents. Mr. Hughes, I hope you'll think carefully before trusting this woman with your money. And Victoria. I turned to face her. I know about Daniel Morrison. I know about the Cayman Islands account. I know everything. Victoria's face went ashen. She sat back down heavily, like her legs wouldn't support her anymore. Who's Daniel Morrison? Robert Hughes asked. But I was already walking away, my heart pounding with adrenaline, and something that felt like triumph. Maria was waiting by the car grinning. Did you get it all on tape? I asked. She held up her phone. Every word. Including her admitting to complications with your project. That's enough to reopen the police investigation. What about Mr. Hughes? He followed you out. Told Victoria the deal was off and walked away. I don't think he'll be investing in any fake oil rigs. We drove back to the airport in silence. I felt drained like I'd run a marathon, but also strangely light, like a weight I'd been carrying for months had finally been lifted. What happens now? I asked. Now we go to the FBI. Show them everything. Your case, my case, and whatever other victims we can find. And Stephen. That's up to you. But I'd start with a divorce lawyer. The plane ride back to Tampa gave me time to think. About Stephen, about Victoria, about the life I thought I had and the life I actually had. By the time we landed, I'd made some decisions. I called Emma first. Mom? How are you doing? You sounded weird yesterday. Emma, I need to tell you something about your father. I told her everything. The affair, the theft, the fake marriage. She cried and so did I. But when we were done, she said something that surprised me. Mom, I'm proud of you. Proud? For what? For fighting back. For not just accepting what they did to you. I don't feel very strong right now. But you are. You're the strongest person I know. After we hung up, I called a divorce lawyer. Then I called the FBI. Then I called my boss and took a leave of absence to deal with everything. 3 weeks later, Victoria Chan was arrested at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, trying to board a flight to the Cayman Islands. Stephen was with her. They'd been living off my money for months, staying in luxury hotels and planning their escape. The FBI found evidence of at least 6 other victims, going back 4 years. Victoria had stolen over $2 million total. The investigation also uncovered Daniel Morrison's money laundering operation, which had been helping criminals hide stolen assets for years. I got most of my money back. Not all of it. Some had already been spent on Victoria and Stephen's lifestyle, but enough to rebuild my retirement savings. Maria got hers back too. Stephen tried to contact me from jail. Said he was sorry that he'd made a mistake, that Victoria had manipulated him. I deleted his messages without reading them. Victoria's lawyer tried to make a deal. She'd return all the stolen money in exchange for a reduced sentence. The FBI wasn't interested. She got 15 years for wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. Stephen got 8 years as an accomplice. I sold the house in Tampa and moved to Seattle to be closer to Emma. Started over at 55, just like Victoria had suggested, but on my terms with my dignity intact. Sometimes people ask me how I knew to fight back instead of just accepting what happened. The truth is, I almost didn't. I almost let them get away with it, almost believed Victoria when she said I should just move on and rebuild. But then I remembered something my mother used to tell me. Gloria, there's a difference between being kind and being stupid. Don't ever confuse the two. Victoria and Stephen thought I was stupid. Thought I'd be too embarrassed or too broken to fight back. They were wrong. Last month, I got a letter from another one of Victoria's victims, a woman in Phoenix who'd lost her savings to a fake tech startup scam. She'd read about the case in the news and wanted to thank me for having the courage to speak up. If you hadn't exposed her, she wrote, I might never have gotten my money back. That letter is framed on my desk now, next to a photo of Emma and me at Pike Place Market. Reminders that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can lead to the best thing you've ever done. I still miss the life I thought I had. But I don't miss the people who betrayed me. And I sleep better at night knowing they can't hurt anyone else. Pause here. What would you do if you discovered your spouse and best friend had been planning to steal your life savings for months? Would you fight back or try to move on? The hardest part wasn't losing the money or even losing Stephen. It was learning that the people I trusted most in the world were capable of such calculated cruelty. But it also taught me something important. I'm stronger than I ever knew. If this story resonates with you, or if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes the most painful experiences in life are also the ones that show us who we really are.